bound to be some issues.
I found it. I found you. I can see you now. I'm so sorry.
Oh, no worries.
All right. All right. Holy cow. Okay. Yeah, let's get started then. Hi, Tricia.
Hi.
This is Tricia with Clutter to Clarity. Tricia also has a Facebook group, Organizing Tips for Busy Moms. We're doing a talk today on organizing. Thank you so much, Tricia, for joining me.
Thanks for inviting me. It's exciting.
January is usually, I don't know, people or companies, Canadian Tire, Walmart, whatever, they're selling lots of storage bins and stuff. So I figured it's a cleaning and organizing time of year, I guess, January. So.
Well, actually, I just heard, I didn't know this before, but January is actually organizing month. So it's a good month to get started. I think it's kind of falls in place with all the other goals that many of us are making at this time of year.
Right, New Year's resolutions and yeah. Cool. So I guess just to get into it, so I have a few questions that, we can talk about. Yeah. So I've known you for quite a while. We used to be neighbors in Langdon. So yeah. And you have twin sons that are grown now.
Yes, they're 22, going to be 23.
When's the birthday?
July 4th.
Okay. Oh, nice. Yeah, time flies when you're having fun, hey?
Doesn't it?
So I had two, but at different times, like, one after the other kind of thing. And that was pretty stressful and hectic. How was it with you? Having two at the same time?
I would say pretty stressful and hectic, especially for about the first 5 years. I always felt outnumbered and ganged up on at times.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there were a few times that I had to make the decision who's in the most danger to run to first, sort of thing. But we survived it. And, my husband and I didn't know really any difference. So we just went with the flow.
Yeah, I guess being the first, yeah, you don't know any different. So,
Right.
So how did that evolve into helping others with their organizing? Because having twins and just thrown into it double time, you have to be organized.
You learn really quickly how to be organized. I learned very quickly that organizing, routines and habits were a matter of survival for us because it needed to be routine so that we made it through the day. We did have, the things that weren't planned, but having all of the stuff that was planned, everybody ate together, everybody slept at the same time, everybody got changed at the same time. When we got ready, that was the same kind of process. And it really did help to maintain sanity, I guess, in our household. So,
yeah.
And I've always been, I wouldn't say the most organized person all my life, but it's something that I have liked to do. Don't get me wrong, I don't like to clean. Cleaning and organizing are totally different. But I love organizing things and putting them in their place. And then on the other hand, too, I was always the friend that people came to when they were struggling with something or they wanted to talk. And so I feel like I'm just a natural for both of these things. They just fit who I am. It's part of my personality. So yeah, it's just kind of been a natural progression. It just took me some time to get there.
Right. Okay. So how did Clutter to Clarity all start for you?
Well, it's kind of been a long journey. It's been over a decade since I kind of started this journey of, really, it started out as finding out who I was after being at home with the boys for, at that point, almost 10 years. And you kind of lose your identity when you stay at home with your kids, right? As a woman, right? You're the mom and you do the mom thing. So when they were
Right.
about to turn 10, I was getting close to 40. And so I started to think about what it was that I was going to do when they grew up and they left home, because that's inevitable. They're going to do that, right? They fly the nest. And
Yeah.
so I started to kind of look back at what it was I wanted to do when I was younger. And I always had wanted to be a psychologist, of all things.
Mhm.
And when I started thinking about that, though, like I was like, I'm almost 40. I'm not going to school for that long. It's not going to happen. I did this search and I discovered social work. And I signed up and I went to university at 40. And after 4 years, I ended up earning a social work diploma, which was awesome. But the whole experience was amazing for my confidence and for building up who I was again and discovering what it was I wanted. I chose not to go for my bachelor's of social work because I wasn't really drawn to it. And around the same time, I discovered coaching and took some more courses for an integrative health coaching program and really enjoyed that part of it. I like the coaching. I like working with people who are ready to make that next step and ready to do the work, and that's exciting for me to see as they progress.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, and then, I tried to get a job. I was close to 50 by that point. I was trying to get a job. I ended up at a school as an education assistant for a little while, and I ended up at some nonprofits, and nothing was really fitting. And then
Mhm.
one day, it's such a silly story. One day I was scrolling through Facebook, as we do, and I scrolled past this sponsored advertisement that said something about organizing. And then I just stopped and I scrolled back and I looked at it and it said, become a professional organizer, start your own business. And this little light bulb went off in my head. And I was like, you can do that for a living? What? Like,
Yeah.
wow. And so
Nice.
I signed up for the training. I set up my business. I registered my business name, and I went to town, and I started getting clients, and I was really enjoying it.
Wow.
And I was doing hands-on organizing at that time. However, 2020 came and things changed. And at
Right.
that time, I was also starting to take a mastermind program through the same people who had the professional organizing. And we kind of all had to pivot. We all had to kind of stop, put the brakes on, and figure out what was next. So the last 2 years have been kind of figuring out what my business was going to look like. I also have some physical limitations that have kind of put a stop to the hands-on piece. And so now I am, changing the format onto more of an online, more of a coaching, more of habit coaching, because habits are really big for organizing as well, or any goal that you want to reach. So that's
Right.
kind of in a nutshell how I got to here.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess everybody had to do, well, not everybody, but a lot of people had to do some big pivoting in 2020.
Mhm.
So, all right, this is cool. Um, how would or who would, I guess, who would benefit from being organized, and how would they benefit, I guess? Like, what does it being organized and having like your things in order, how does that help you? Like, is it a mental thing? Is it just a physical? Is it like things in order?
Well, to answer the first part of your question, I think anyone can benefit from being organized. I'm just wondering if you're still there because you're frozen. So I hope you're still there. I hope I'm still on Facebook. I'm not sure if we're together, but I'll keep answering your question, in hopes that this works
Yeah,
out.
my that
Oh, are
came
you
back.
back?
Sorry. Yeah.
Technical issues. Okay. No worries. No problem.
Without me, yeah.
Anyway, down to your first question, part of your question about who can benefit from being organized. Anyone can benefit from organization. What I have learned, and this is through my lived experiences as well as working with clients, is that organization, clutter in general, is connected to between your mental, your emotional, and your physical health. Clutter can just kind of interfere with everything in your life. It can, there's always that saying of like a cluttered desk equals a cluttered mind. And it's really actually
Right.
quite true when you start to look at people who are really struggling with clutter, often are struggling with other parts of their lives as well. So when we get control back from our clutter, that gives us control of our environment, which really helps us with the oh, hello, you still there? You're still there. Anyway, yeah, so it helps
Are
people.
you there?
I am here. Can you hear me? You're popping in and out. Of course, it's going to be like this tonight.
Yeah.
No, you're back.
Right. Maybe it's the wind. I don't know, but
Maybe. I don't know. The wind needs to stop and smarten up. Anyway, yes, people can benefit emotionally, mentally, and physically by gaining control back from their clutter, and kind of just gives you space to breathe when you are able to let go of the stuff that we have and really just surround yourself with that yourself with the stuff that you truly truly love, that you need and that you work with, and not with all the other stuff.
right.
I hope I answered that question properly.
Yeah. Okay. So with that, I have a question that's not on the list, but say you're in, like, you have somebody else in your house who doesn't want to get rid of anything. Um, how do you deal with that? Um, I guess, would it be just, well, you tell me, how would you deal with that?
Well, that is challenging, and that happens quite often actually. Two people come together with different ideas, and that's when really open and honest communication needs to happen. You need to have the conversations together about expectations. Otherwise, as human beings, we tend to make up stories about what the other person's doing, and that can cause a lot of miscommunications and a lot of problems. So, really sitting down and explaining from your point of view why it's important, if you're the one who's organized, who likes to be organized, why it's important to you to be organized and what it does for you when that person helps you out by putting things back where they belong. And then listening to their side as well, and what their stuff means to them and why it's difficult for them to let things go, and then maybe having a conversation around what to do with their stuff, or making, coming to like some sort of agreement. Maybe that person gets to have a room that they get their collection in, or maybe, just whatever compromise, because it's a relationship and we have to compromise anyway. And until that person is ready to let go, I really never recommend that anyone get rid of anyone else's stuff without their permission. That can cause a whole other issue in a relationship. So it's about respect and trust, and it's about really, really straightforward, honest communication together. That's really going to get you through that, and really listening to each other.
Okay. Makes sense. Makes sense. Um, so, um, you are Clutter to Clarity, but you're also organizing tips for busy moms. Um, how do you help moms get organized, and why is it so important, like new moms?
Well, I work with new moms, I work with seasoned moms, any kind of mom. And I think it's really important because the lessons that I learned when the boys were little, really, like I mentioned before, the habits and the routines are so important to keep your sanity for survival, especially when you're looking at multiples. If you have multiples, even multiple children of different ages, having a routine and good habits of making sure that you're getting things done at a certain time um, really helps to keep the sanity in the family and the chaos, because little people tend to bring chaos into our lives all by themselves. They're really quite good at it. And so my way of seeing it is that if you can keep the clutter chaos at a minimum and keep it organized and know where things are that you can grab in times of, say, a tantrum, or we got to get out of the house, we got another sports thing, whatever it is, keeping this clutter chaos under as much control as you possibly can will give you the time and the energy to deal with the other chaos that comes into your life when you have kids, because it does, it's like it's crazy sometimes where you just don't have a minute to breathe. And
Yeah.
so the idea of being able to come home and make a meal quickly, so for example, meal planning on the weekends, and how important that is to do the steps and maybe even the prepping of the vegetables and stuff so you can just grab and make a healthy meal for your family. I know that a lot of moms suffer from guilt from not being able to, have the time to feed their kids healthy food. And something as simple as changing your habits around how you meal plan, how you prep your meals, how you plan your week. I know I said simple. It's not, I know a lot of people are really like, it's not that simple. But it's about habits as opposed to the actual goal of being organized. And
Right.
goals, we do. We like to set goals because that gets us going. But that's the thing that we want to get to. There's still steps that we need to do to get to that goal. And we need to see goals as less of a finish line and more of a lifelong thing when it comes to organizing, especially.
Right. So, so you help with not only like your house and stuff, but possibly, like getting schedules and getting that a little bit smoother. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm entering into habit coaching. So I have recently read James Clear's book, Atomic Habits, which blew my mind. The way that I think of setting goals and getting to the goals. And it is about the habits. And as I've been reading it, and I've been kind of thinking back over my life, and habits are what is our identity, really. That's what builds our identity, our habits. Our habits serve us, whether we call them good, whether we call them bad. I don't like to call them that because as he states in his book, habits serve us for whatever reason it is. It could be for coping, it could be for survival. Those habits are put there, we have created them to get us through something. And sometimes those habits stop serving us and keep us stuck in a place that we don't want to be. And
Oh,
so, what I mean by teaching scheduling and stuff, it's about actually teaching how to look at your habits, how to observe them, how to become more self aware about your habits, and how to change those habits to help you become the person that you want to be to reach that goal that you're setting, if that makes sense.
yeah, totally makes sense. So with this book that you said you just finished reading and some new goals that you have for yourself, tell me about this workshop that you have coming.
Well, I am working on my very first 3-day workshop. It's online, it's virtual. And so when I say 3 days, I mean like 30 to 45-minute live sessions on Zoom
Okay.
that people register for. So basically, I am okay. Well, first of all, I'm terrified. So I hope it goes well. This is my first one. So it's called Building Habits for Getting Organized in 2022. It's pretty simple. So I will be talking about what habits are, why they're important, how to observe them and become aware, self-aware of your habits, and other things like habit stacking, learning how to put a couple of habits. So if you already have a habit, for example, of cooking dinner, how you can stack on other habits to help you with that, like what I was talking about, meal planning. So having everything all prepped beforehand, kind of thing. And then I'll also add in a few little tips and tricks about getting started and how to keep your sanity while starting to get organized.
Hmm. That sounds like a really good workshop.
Well, I hope so.
That's awesome. Good luck with that.
Thank you.
Um, so I was looking at, I think it was on your website. You had talked about an epidemic for perfection. Can you talk a little bit about that and what that is?
Sure. Well, in my opinion, and from my perspective, I just feel like society has become so much, or has started to attach happiness and beauty to perfection.
Mhm.
And social media and even mainstream media talks so much about everything being perfect. So they show these little like snippets of people's lives, and they're so happy and they're doing these things, and we don't get the bigger picture. But I'm losing my words. The outcome of all of these, just these little snippets, creates this mentality that if I don't do it a certain way, if I don't act a certain way, I don't look a certain way, I don't speak a certain way, then I'm not good enough. And that, I think, is causing so much stress for people. For example, I'm a member of a couple of moms groups on Facebook, and I see the writing, the posts of I should be doing it this way. I should be this way. I'm not doing this. My babies aren't doing this. And my babies, or they're
Right.
behind. That, and that stress that's coming up. And then I often think, thank goodness we didn't have social media when the boys were. I don't know if I could have survived it.
Yeah.
And I just want to reassure all women, moms, all women, that we are enough. It doesn't matter. I read this post this week that women are always apologizing or making excuses for things like my house. Oh, excuse the mess. Excuse my hair. Pardon my hair. It's a mess. Like we're always like prefacing everything we do with a like, this is why I'm doing it, just so that and it's sad to me to watch that. And I think that epidemic of perfection makes us keep doing things. Either there's two things that happen. It's like people just keep doing things over and over and over again because it never ever seems perfect to them, or they just freeze and do nothing. And
Right.
that is how I believe a lot of people get into trouble with clutter, is because they feel like their house has to be Instagram and Pinterest perfect.
Mm.
And I want to teach, and I do teach, it doesn't have to be that way. It just has to be functional for you and work for you and your family's lifestyle,
Yeah.
and create a space that's um, retreat for you and your family from the crazy world outside, which is a little more crazy the last 2 years.
Yeah. That's a really, really nice way to look at it. And to live it. I for my house right now, well, in the last few years, it's like, well, you get what you get when you come through the door, you know, whatever. I'm not concerned with it at all. Well, okay, not at all, but you know, I like it a little bit in order, but it's
They're
just
coming to see you, not your house. Right?
exactly,
So yeah.
exactly. And
Mhm.
have a sink full of dishes. Well, we'll get to it, you know. Right now we're visiting.
Great. And it's about that, right? It's about I see a lot of people um spending so much time trying to be perfect, but they're missing out on the messy side of life, which is where all the fun is, which is where all the living is, right? Because
Yeah.
life's messy. And that is what makes life beautiful, is when it's messy, right? Because you just, I mean, how boring would it be if we just knew what was going to happen every second of every
Yeah.
day?
Yeah, exactly. There's too much stress and pressure to be perfect. Yeah, like what you said about epidemic for perfection.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. Um, so you had mentioned before that you suffered from postpartum when you had the boys. Um, and that um, kind of aided you into moving in this direction,
Yes.
say?
Yeah. Yeah. I did suffer with postpartum. I didn't know that's what it was, which turned into a depression after they were older and until they were 5. And then some stuff happened and I was able to get help. And it was like the sun came out for the first time in 5 years. It was kind of amazing. Also, very sad because I felt like I missed the first 5 years of their life, really. And so when I was choosing what I wanted to do when I turned 40, um, social work was a draw because I did want to help postpartum moms. So I just want moms to know that they're not alone and they don't have to suffer in silence, which I'm seeing a lot of on social media. However, sometimes social media is not really the safety net, the safety place for them to be. And so just letting moms know that they're not alone and that they can get help outside of their homes. They don't have to be, suffering in silence.
So also, if you're working with them, other moms who have postpartum or going through it or have, um, you identify with what they're going through, like and
Yeah.
there's other things that you can help with, perhaps.
Well, and I think it also opens up to, for me, like I can recognize when it might be happening and recommend
Hmm.
of some other type of help for them to help them get through it. Because I'm not a registered or licensed social worker, so I,
Right.
very much recommend that. But
Mhm.
also, I have this vision of at some point along the way, I would really like to bring together seasoned moms with new moms because I think that's missing for a lot of new moms is they don't have the seasoned moms in their lives as often, maybe, or they're further away from the older women, and
Right.
just for that support piece because I think as us as seasoned moms we just have so much information and wisdom that we've learned over the years. Sometimes hard lessons, sometimes not. And we can reassure them that what they're going through is perfectly fine and normal and that someone's here to listen and it's okay. Like I was talking with someone the other day, it was about not sweating the small stuff because there's going to be big stuff coming along the lines where you're going to really have to sweat about, right? Like those calls from the principal, those things, they're coming.
Yeah, that would be a boy mom. Well, girl too, right?
Mm-hmm. That's
Anybody
right.
can get those calls. Yeah, and that's because of the organizing aspect and helping people get their minds clear as well as kind of their lives and their household. That's why I mentioned the postpartum. Well, you did mention it to me before, but yeah, just with an organizing aspect, and so um, so just I guess in looking at your clutter to clarity, what is it? Cluttertoclarity.ca or is it .com?
.ca.
.ca. Okay. I was always a penny pincher, and when my kids were growing up, um, I I didn't have the opportunity to have somebody in. Um, I always kind of did things myself. It was like, yeah, it was definitely the hard way. Um, in hindsight, of course, I should have asked for that help. I mean, yeah, doctor after doctor, a couple of them, well, not that many, but a couple of them did suggest, do you need some help? So, yeah, I was just being way too stubborn. But in hindsight, and being a mature mom, I should have asked for the help and taking anything that was out there, really. A service like yours, yeah, is very needed. And when I looked on your website, definitely affordable. In my opinion, like, yeah, you can't put a price on sanity, really. Um, yeah, and happiness and your ultimate needs, right?
Right.
Um, what kind of things do you provide with your service? Like, what do you do when you have a client?
Well, I provide uh, coaching around organizing if that's what they're hiring me for. We talk about how to get started, steps. I can be an accountability partner as well to help them stay on track. I do check-ins, making sure that, they don't have any more questions, or maybe they're struggling with something. We can readjust what they're doing. I also, like I was talking about before, I do the habit coaching. So we talk a lot about spending time just observing yourself as you would observe someone else when you're doing your everyday stuff, and keeping track of what you're doing. So what habits are there, and then really taking a look at them and finding out or figuring out which ones may be getting in the way of you doing the stuff that you want to do. Really, the biggest things that I hear a lot about are lack of time, lack of energy, lack of money. And I can attest to you with the people I've worked with, they have gained, reclaimed time and energy and saved money by getting organized. Um, what comes to mind for me is like pantries. Pantries are a big thing for a lot of people, especially busy moms. You go grocery shopping, it gets shoved in there. Most of the time, you don't know what's in there. I tell a story of when I was younger. I am not a baker, but every time I went to the grocery store for this period of time, I kept buying icing sugar. I don't know why. And then I decided I should clean out my pantry. I should get it organized. I did, and I had 7 bags of icing sugar. I'm like, 7 bags? I don't even bake. What the heck, right? So I mean, imagine how much money I spent on icing sugar that I'm not even going to use, and I ended up donating because I don't bake.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean by getting it organized, saving you time and money. Also, tips like putting your cereal in clear containers. So instead of coming back from grocery shopping and finding an empty box, things like that, the things that you just don't think of when you first become a mom. You're like, oh well, yeah, I got this, right? But just gaining, reclaiming that time, energy, and also reclaiming your spaces from your clutter. So that's a part of my services as well. And sometimes I'm just there to be an ear and a shoulder and listen,
Mhm.
and then ask questions. And sometimes I challenge people when they're telling me one thing that they want one thing, but they're doing something else. And sometimes I'm there to gently challenge them on those things as well.
Yeah.
Mm.
Are you really?
Exactly.
Really?
That's what you say, but this is what you're doing. Doesn't quite compute for me.
Yeah, the accountability part, eh?
Right.
Nice. That was all of the questions that I had. Did you have anything that you wanted to add?
Um, I also just want to add too, because you did send me a question about empty nesters. So I just wanted to touch on that.
For
Um,
sure.
I can definitely help empty nesters as well, as I am one. And I also, in the last year and a half, my husband and I packed up and sold our house in the town that we were neighbors in, that we lived for 22 years, raised our kids there. And we moved to a new town and downsized to a house half the size. And the lessons that I learned in that were invaluable because it's a huge thing to do. And so, yes, I and very much would love to share
Mm,
that wisdom with people who are downsizing or thinking about downsizing. Lots of tips and tidbits there. My biggest one is if you have purged and purged again, and you think you've purged a lot, purge another times and be prepared to purge again when you move into your smaller house. Because you have a lot more stuff than you think you do.
yeah, actually, I have another friend who just went through that too. And yeah, absolutely. Yeah, she just moved into her townhouse now, actually. And same thing, she has to go through a few more things. So
Yeah, I
true,
think it's a
true.
never ending process, really. There's just always going to be something
Yeah,
that catches your eyes. And again, go back to the habits. Once you get into the habit of doing it, it becomes second nature, which is what habits are all about anyway.
nice. If somebody wants to or is interested in this workshop or wants to get a hold of you, what do they do?
Well, they can private message me on Facebook if they'd like to, or I'll put a link underneath the recording as well. And I will also, as I get a little bit more into this, probably next week, I'll post a link on my page as well as my group and
Okay.
my business page too.
Yeah, awesome. So when is your workshop going ahead?
It's going to start. The first day is January 24th,
Okay.
and on the 26th, and then on the 28th.
Okay, so you're starting at 3 different times?
No, it'll be at 11 a.m. Mountain Standard Time each of those days. So day one is on the Monday, day two is on the Wednesday, and day three is on the Friday.
Okay, sounds good. Sounds
Just
like it'd be a
a little time in between to kind of, um, you know, work on the stuff we talk about.
little bit of homework.
A little bit, if that's what they want to do, they can try it out. So if not, just listen and try it out later.
Okay, awesome. That sounds good. Okay, thank you, Tricia, for doing this today and joining me. Yeah, there was a few, technical difficulties. Hey, it's me. That's what kind of happens. So,
Life is messy.
yeah. So, yeah, thanks again for joining me. And yeah, have a great night.
You too. Thank you so much for inviting me on. This was great. I really enjoyed it.
All right. Good luck with your workshop.
Thank you, and have a great night.
Thanks. Take care.